Have you ever looked out at the ocean on a perfect summer day? It looks exactly the same as it did 50 years ago. A vast, sparkling blanket of blue that seems timeless, indifferent, and utterly indestructible. But that serenity is a lie, a beautiful mask hiding a crime scene that spans 70% of our planet. Unlike an oil spill that coats the beaches in black sludge or a plastic island floating like a scar on the water, this threat is completely invisible. You can't see it from a satellite, you can't smell it on the breeze, and if you dipped your hand in the water, you wouldn't feel a thing. It's the perfect murder weapon because it leaves no fingerprints, no wreckage, and no witnesses until it's already too late. We are talking about a silent shift, a fundamental rewriting of the ocean's chemical identity that is happening right under our noses. The water isn't just getting warmer. It is turning against the very life it was meant to cradle. So, what exactly is happening in the invisible dark? Every single moment of every single day, the ocean is frantically absorbing carbon dioxide from our atmosphere, like a giant planetary sponge trying to clean up our mess. For decades, we thought this was a good thing, a lucky break that kept our air breathable and our climate somewhat stable. But there is a terrifying price for this service, a chemical bill that is finally coming due. When carbon dioxide dissolves in seawater, it doesn't just disappear. It reacts to form carbonic acid, fundamentally altering the pH balance of the entire marine world. Think of it as the ocean's blood turning sour, a slow-motion poisoning of the planetary bloodstream. It's not a dramatic explosion, but a quiet, creeping toxicity that is spreading from the surface down to the crushing black depths. This isn't just about some abstract numbers on a scientist's chart. It is a biological nightmare in the making. Imagine walking through a forest where the air itself slowly starts to dissolve your bones while you are still using them. That is the reality for millions of marine creatures right now, from the tiniest plankton to massive coral reefs. The chemistry is simple but brutal. As acidity rises, the available carbonate ions, the building blocks for shells and skeletons, are snatched away. Creatures are forced to spend more and more energy just to maintain their own bodies, fighting a losing battle against the water that surrounds them. It's an exhaustion death, a fatigue that sets in before the dissolution even begins. They aren't just dying. They are being chemically erased. But here is where the true horror begins to set in. We aren't just sliding down a gentle slope of change. We are walking blindfolded toward a sudden, jagged drop-off known as the pH cliff. Biological systems are incredibly resilient, able to adapt and bend under pressure, but only up to a very specific breaking point. Once that threshold is crossed, the collapse isn't slow or graceful. It is instant and catastrophic. We are currently teetering on that edge, playing a game of chemical roulette with the life support system of the entire planet. It's the terrifying realization that by the time we actually see the damage with our own eyes, the momentum will be unstoppable. The ocean doesn't bargain, and it certainly doesn't forgive. You might be thinking, surely life will find a way, right? Evolution is powerful. And you would be right, but evolution works on the scale of millions of years, while we are changing the rules in a matter of decades. We are forcing ancient biological machinery to run a race it was never designed to enter, let alone win. The speed of this acidification is unprecedented in the last 300 million years, a chemical shock that has no modern parallel. We are effectively conducting an uncontrolled experiment on the biosphere, and the test subjects are the very things that keep us alive. It's not just a tragedy for the fish. It's a rewriting of the basic operating system of Earth. Consider the silence of a dying reef, a ghost town where the vibrant noise of snapping shrimp and fish has been replaced by an eerie, suffocating quiet. Sound actually travels differently in acidic water, meaning the ocean of the future will be acoustically alien to us. But the silence isn't empty. It's heavy with the weight of what is missing, a graveyard of calcium carbonate structures that once housed millions of lives. This is the silent shift in its most literal form, a quieting of the biological symphony that has played for eons. It creates a sense of unease, a feeling that something vital has been stolen from the world, leaving behind a hollow, echoing void. The vibrant, noisy, chaotic ocean we know is being replaced by something sterile and mute. And the scariest part? We are the ones feeding the beast. Every time we burn fossil fuels, we are effectively pouring more acid into the tank, accelerating the process with reckless abandon. We treat the ocean as an infinite dumping ground, assuming it can swallow our excesses forever without consequence. But the sponge is full. The buffer is breaking down. We are witnessing the transformation of our greatest ally into a hostile environment, a womb turning into a tomb. It raises a chilling question. What happens when the ocean stops absorbing our carbon and starts releasing it back? That is the feedback loop of nightmares. But you don't have to just take my word for it or rely on terrifying metaphors. The evidence isn't hiding in some future computer model. It is already dissolving right in front of us, quite literally. In the next few minutes, we are going to look at the victims of this silent war, the creatures whose bodies are crumbling while they are still alive. We will see the armor of the ocean's knights turning into mush and witness the rise of the slime that waits to take their place. The evidence is undeniable, visible, and absolutely horrifying. So, take a deep breath because we are about to dive into a world where the water itself is the enemy. If the first act of this tragedy is invisible, the second is undeniably, heartbreakingly visible. We are moving from the chemistry of the water to the biology of the victim, and this is where the story shifts from a mystery to a body horror film. Imagine a creature so delicate and otherworldly that it is known as the sea butterfly. This is the pteropod, a tiny marine snail that doesn't crawl but flies through the water column with wing-like feet, an angelic speck of life drifting in the open ocean. For millions of years, they have danced in the currents, building intricate, glass-like shells that are marvels of natural engineering. But in today's acidifying ocean, these shells are becoming their tombs. We are seeing live pteropods with shells that are opaque, ragged, and literally dissolving while the creature inside is still fighting to swim. The horror here isn't just that the acid is strong enough to burn. It's that it is fundamentally thieving. The ocean is chemically stealing the very building blocks these creatures need to exist. To build a shell, a pteropod or a crab needs carbonate ions from the water, snapping them together like Lego bricks to form a protective fortress. But when CO2 rises, it greedily binds with those carbonate ions first, locking them away in a chemical embrace that marine life cannot break. It's like trying to build a brick house while an invisible hand snatches every third brick away before you can lay it. The result is a shell that is thin, pitted, and incredibly fragile, leaving the soft, defenseless animal exposed to a hostile world. And it's not just the tiny sea butterflies that are suffering. The giants of the crustacean world are beginning to crumble too. Take the Dungeness crab, a warrior of the Pacific floor, known for its tough armor and fighting spirit. Recent studies have found something deeply disturbing in the larval crabs off the west coast. Their shells are showing signs of severe corrosion. Under a microscope, what should be a smooth, hard surface looks like a cratered moonscape, scarred and eaten away by the very water they breathe. This isn't happening in a lab experiment with artificially pumped gas. This is happening right now in the wild ocean. The armor that has protected their ancestors for eons is failing them, turning soft and useless against the teeth of predators. But the damage goes deeper than just the shell. It attacks the very way these creatures perceive reality. You see, a crab doesn't see the world like we do. It feels it through thousands of tiny, hair-like sensors on its legs and shell. These mechanoreceptors are their eyes and ears, detecting the subtle vibrations of a predator or the chemical trail of food. The acid is eating these sensors away, leaving the crabs effectively blind and deaf to their environment. Imagine wandering through a dark room where you can't see, can't hear, and your skin is slowly going numb. That is the living nightmare of a Dungeness crab in an acidic ocean. A slow descent into sensory isolation. This dissolution is a gruesome energy tax that every shelled creature has to pay. Instead of growing, reproducing, or hunting, they are forced to spend every ounce of their metabolic budget just to repair the walls that are melting around them. It is a biological war of attrition, and the house, the ocean, always wins. We are seeing smaller, weaker animals that are exhausted before they even reach adulthood. They are technically alive, but they are walking ghosts, creatures so compromised that they have no real future in the food web. And when the bottom of the food web crumbles, the entire tower begins to sway. The psychological horror of this cannot be overstated. Nature is turning into a solvent. We are used to the ocean being a place of crushing pressure and darkness, but we aren't used to it being a vat of weak acid. It challenges our fundamental understanding of the sea as a life giver. For a pteropod, the water is no longer a home. It is a hostile fluid that is actively dismantling its body molecule by molecule. It's a betrayal of the highest order, a twisting of the natural laws that have governed marine life for hundreds of millions of years. The sanctuary has become the slaughterhouse. As these shelled knights of the ocean fall, their armor dissolved, their senses dulled, a vacuum is created. Nature abhors a vacuum, and something is waiting in the wings to fill the void left by the crabs, the clams, and the coral. This replacement isn't a noble creature of calcium and bone, but something far more ancient and opportunistic. It doesn't need a shell. It doesn't need to hunt with complex sensory organs. It just needs to float and sting. The era of the armor is ending, and the era of the gelatinous is about to begin. So the armor is gone. The knights are dying, their shields pitted and their swords useless. But do you know what loves a world without armor? Do you know what thrives in the warm, sour soup that dissolves bone and shell? The slime. As the complex, calcified life fades away, a new dynasty is rising from the depths, one that is perfectly adapted to this toxic future. Prepare yourself, because we are about to meet the winners of the acid lottery, and they are anything but human. Now let's talk about the winners. In every war, no matter how destructive, someone eventually walks away with the spoils, and in the chemical war for the ocean, the victor is a creature that has no brain, no heart, and no blood. While the crabs are dissolving and the fish are gasping, the jellyfish are having the party of a lifetime. These pulsating blobs of gelatin are perfectly designed for a broken ocean. They don't need calcium to build a skeleton because they don't have one. They are 95% water, held together by a simple protein mesh that acid can't easily touch. As the water warms and sours, their metabolism actually kicks into high gear, allowing them to grow faster, breed sooner, and eat everything in sight. Imagine looking over the side of a boat and, instead of seeing clear blue water, you see a thick, undulating soup of pink and purple slime stretching to the horizon. This isn't a scene from a B-movie. It's a phenomenon called a jellyfish bloom, and it's becoming more common every year. In a healthy ocean, fish eat baby jellyfish and keep their numbers in check, but we've already fished out the predators and poisoned the water they swim in. The result is a gummy bear ocean, a chaotic explosion of life where swarms of jellies clog the cooling intakes of nuclear power plants and burst fishing nets with their sheer weight. It is a takeover so complete that, in some places, the biomass of jellyfish now outweighs all the fish combined. But the horror of the slime goes deeper than just a few extra jellyfish. It signals a fundamental regression of the planet. We are inadvertently rolling back the biological clock by hundreds of millions of years, returning the ocean to a primeval state known as the rise of slime. In this new world, the complex, beautiful food webs we know, where sharks eat tuna and tuna eat mackerel, are collapsing into a simple, ugly loop. Microbes and jellyfish dominate, consuming the energy and locking it away in a gelatinous dead end that most other animals can't eat. It's an ecosystem that is productive, sure, but it produces nothing we want, nothing we can use, and nothing that resembles the ocean we love. This takeover is aided by another silent killer that often travels hand in hand with acidification: oxygen starvation. As the ocean warms, it loses its ability to hold onto oxygen, creating vast, suffocating expanses known as dead zones. For a high-energy hunter like a swordfish or a shark, swimming into one of these zones is like walking into a room with no air. They suffocate in minutes. But do you know what doesn't mind a little breathlessness? Our gelatinous friends. Jellyfish and certain microbes are incredibly tolerant of low oxygen, allowing them to dive into these dead zones to hide, sleep, and digest, safe from any predator that might try to follow them. It creates a chilling dynamic where the ocean is divided into the living and the zombie zones. The zombie zones are expanding, creeping across the continental shelves and turning vibrant ecosystems into silent, slimy graveyards. In these places, the water is thick with bacteria that thrive on rotting matter, creating mats of slime that coat the seafloor. It's a return to the Precambrian era, a time before complex life evolved, effectively hitting the factory reset button on 3 billion years of evolutionary progress. The ocean isn't dying, exactly. It's just becoming something ancient, hostile, and deeply unfamiliar to us. Think about the psychological impact of that shift. We associate the ocean with freedom, with wildness, with a kind of noble savagery. But a slime ocean is just gross. It triggers a primal revulsion in us, a fear of contamination and decay that is hard to shake. It's the difference between a wolf and a swarm of cockroaches. One commands respect, the other just makes you want to look away. And yet, this repulsive future is the one we are actively building, day by day, with every gigaton of carbon we pump into the air. We are terraforming our own planet into a paradise for pests. There is a specific, haunting irony in the fact that the creatures inheriting the Earth are the ones we care about the least. We spend millions protecting whales and turtles, creating sanctuaries and laws to save the charismatic megafauna. Meanwhile, the jellyfish are quietly conquering the globe without a single advocate, simply by surviving the toxic mess we've made. They are the ultimate opportunists, the cockroaches of the sea, waiting for the landlords to burn the house down so they can move into the ashes. It's a reminder that nature doesn't play favorites. It only rewards survival. So, we have the invisible poison, the dissolving victims, and the slimy usurpers. It feels like a unique, unprecedented nightmare, a script written specifically for the Anthropocene. But I have bad news for you. This movie has actually played before, and the reviews were terrible. To understand where we are going, we have to look back at the single worst moment in the history of life on Earth. If you think a jellyfish ocean is scary, wait until you meet the ghosts of the Great Dying, because the last time the ocean turned to acid, it almost took the entire planet down with it. If you think the idea of a slime-filled, jellyfish-choked ocean sounds like a science fiction nightmare, I have some very bad news for you. This isn't a hypothetical scenario cooked up in a writer's room. It is a historical fact. The horror movie we are terrified of watching has already played in the theater of Earth's history, and the ending was brutal. To understand the true stakes of what we are doing today, we have to travel back in time, far beyond the age of the dinosaurs, to a period known as the Permian. It was a world teeming with life, until something went wrong. Terribly, catastrophically wrong. 252 million years ago, the Earth almost died. This event is formally known as the Permian-Triassic extinction, but paleontologists have a much more fitting name for it, the Great Dying. It wasn't an asteroid from space or a stray comet that pulled the trigger. The killer came from within. Massive volcanic eruptions in what is now Siberia tore the Earth open, spewing fountains of lava and, more importantly, trillions of tons of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. For thousands of years, the sky turned gray, the rain turned to acid, and the ocean absorbed so much carbon that it effectively turned into a poison bath. The statistics of this event are so extreme they are almost impossible to comprehend. In a geological blink of an eye, up to 96% of all marine species were wiped off the face of the planet. It was the closest life on Earth has ever come to being completely extinguished. The ocean didn't just get a little uncomfortable. It became a tomb. Trilobites, which had ruled the seas for millions of years, vanished forever. Ancient armored fish, sea scorpions, and vast reef systems were simply deleted from existence, leaving behind a silence that lasted for millennia. The most chilling piece of evidence from this ancient crime scene is something geologists call the reef gap. If you look at the layers of rock from the period immediately following the Great Dying, you notice something missing. There are no corals. For millions of years after the extinction event, the fossil record shows zero evidence of reef-building organisms. The ocean was so acidic, so hostile to calcium carbonate, that it was physically impossible for a reef to form. It took life roughly 10 million years to recover enough to start building again. Imagine a gap in history 10 million years long where the ocean was effectively a ghost town. So, why am I telling you this ancient ghost story? Because the chemistry that caused the Great Dying is exactly the same chemistry we are mixing in our oceans right now. The volcanoes of the Siberian traps released massive amounts of CO2, warming the planet and acidifying the water. Today, our cars, factories, and power plants are acting as the new volcanoes, pumping carbon into the air at a rate that is actually faster than the eruptions that nearly killed the planet. We are recreating the conditions of the worst mass extinction in history, but we are doing it on a schedule that is terrifyingly compressed. There is a terrifying symmetry between the past and our present. Just like in the Permian, we are seeing the early warning signs, the silent shift in pH, the dissolution of shells, the expansion of low-oxygen dead zones. We are walking the same path that led to the death of 96% of marine life, but we are walking it with our eyes wide open. The difference is that the Permian extinction played out over thousands of years, giving some life a tiny chance to adapt or migrate. We are forcing these changes to happen in centuries, effectively speed-running the apocalypse. This historical context transforms our current situation from a problem into an emergency. It's one thing to say, the water is getting acidic. It's another to say, we are triggering the same mechanism that caused the Great Dying. It strips away the comfort of thinking that nature is resilient and will just bounce back. The fossil record proves that nature does break, and when it breaks, it stays broken for a very, very long time. We are standing on the edge of a second reef gap, looking down into a potential future where the only things that survive are the slime and the bacteria. But history doesn't just offer warnings. It also offers clues. Even in the hellscape of the Permian Ocean, life didn't disappear completely. A tiny fraction of creatures, the toughest, the weirdest, the most adaptable, managed to cling to existence in the toxic dark. They survived the acid, the heat, and the suffocation, carrying the torch of life through the long night. As we face our own uncertain future, we have to ask, who were these survivors? And more importantly, where can we find their descendants hiding in our ocean today? If the history of the Great Dying is the bad news, then surely there must be some good news, right? Well, yes and no. There is hope, but it doesn't look like a Disney movie. It looks like a nightmare. To find the survivors of the future, we have to leave the sunlit surface and dive down into the crushing blackness of the deep sea, to places where the earth itself is bleeding poison. We are heading to hydrothermal vents and volcanic carbon seeps, cracks in the ocean floor where liquid carbon dioxide bubbles up like a witch's brew. These are the most toxic, acidic environments on the planet, places where the pH is so low it should theoretically melt flesh. But when we turn on the lights of our submarine, we don't see a graveyard. We see a riot. Crawling over the smoking chimneys and writhing in the toxic sludge are creatures that defy every rule of biology we hold dear. Welcome to the home of the extremophiles, the punk rockers of the ocean who looked at the laws of nature and decided to break every single one of them. These aren't delicate, beautiful animals. They are armored, ugly, and incredibly tough. They are living proof that survival is possible even in hell, provided you are willing to become a monster to do it. Meet the alvanellid worm, a creature that looks like a tube of lipstick possessed by a demon. It lives right on the edge of hydrothermal vents, in water hot enough to boil an egg and acidic enough to strip the enamel off your teeth. It survives by coating itself in a mucus that traps bacteria, creating a living biological shield against the chemistry that wants to kill it. It doesn't just tolerate the acid. It thrives in it, growing faster than almost any other marine invertebrate. It is a masterclass in biological stubbornness, a middle finger to the concept of a habitable zone. Then there are the vent crabs, pale, ghostly scavengers that swarm over the sulfur-rich rocks. Unlike their cousins in the coral reefs, these crabs have evolved thick, leathery shells that are resistant to dissolution. They have traded vision for touch and beauty for durability. In this acidic underworld, they are the kings, feasting on the bacteria that grow in thick mats on the ocean floor. They remind us that life is a stubborn, sticky thing that will cling to existence even when the entire planet tries to scrape it off. They are the survivors, but they are survivors of a very specific, very lonely war. These deep-sea pockets are effectively time machines or perhaps crystal balls. They are natural laboratories where the ocean of 2100 already exists today. By studying these acid seeps off the coasts of places like Italy and Papua New Guinea, scientists can see exactly who wins and who loses when the pH drops. The losers are the specialists. The corals, the urchins, the colorful fish with complex life cycles. The winners are the generalists, the weeds, and the slime lovers. It's a window into a future where diversity collapses into a handful of dominant, indestructible species. The existence of these creatures proves a vital point. The ocean itself will not die. The water will remain, and something will swim in it. The question is not, will there be life? But, what kind of life? The survivors of the vents tell us that the future belongs to the tough, the small, and the strange. It belongs to creatures that can reproduce quickly, eat anything, and build their bodies out of materials that don't dissolve in acid. We are looking at an ocean that has traded complexity for durability, a world of biological concrete rather than biological cathedrals. But there is a heavy price for this survival. The creatures of the vents are isolated, trapped in their tiny islands of toxicity. They cannot migrate, they cannot spread, and they cannot replace the vast, interconnected ecosystems we rely on. A worm that lives in boiling acid cannot replace a tuna fish. A crab that eats sulfur bacteria cannot replace a coral reef that protects a coastline from storms. These monsters are fascinating, yes, but they are not a replacement for the blue, bountiful ocean we are currently dismantling. They are the backup drive, not the main operating system. So, we have seen the crime scene of the past, and we have met the monsters of the deep who might inherit the future. We know what the acid does to a shell, and we know who rises when the reefs fall. Now, it's time to put all these pieces together. It's time to build the world of tomorrow. Close your eyes and imagine the year 2100. The water is warm, the silence is deafening, and the things swimming beneath the surface, well, they are not the things you remember. We have traveled through the invisible poison, witnessed the dissolving shells, and met the monsters of the deep. Now, it is time to step out of the time machine and look at the finished product. Welcome to the ocean of the year 2100. The first thing you notice isn't what you see, but what you hear, or rather, what you don't. The ocean you and I know is a noisy, boisterous place, filled with the clicks, grunts, and snaps of millions of creatures talking to one another. But the acid ocean is quieter. The snapping shrimp that create the background crackle of the reefs are gone. The fish that grunt to find mates are silent or dead. Sound actually travels differently in this chemically altered water, muffled and distorted, turning the once vibrant symphony of the sea into a hollow, echoing library. Visually, the color palette has shifted completely. The brilliant, neon kaleidoscope of the coral reef, the reds, purples, and oranges, has been bleached away. In its place is a world of monochrome greens and browns. You are looking at vast, underwater meadows of fleshy algae and seagrasses. These plants are the other big winners of the acid lottery. They love the extra carbon dioxide, gulping it down like fertilizer and growing into thick, choking forests. It's a lush world, yes, but it's a weedy one. A tangled overgrowth that suffocates the bottom and hides the decay underneath. It looks less like a paradise and more like an abandoned garden that has been reclaimed by the wild. And what is hunting in these silent, green forests? The heavy armor of the past is gone. The crabs, the lobsters, and the clams are rare artifacts, hiding in the few refuges left. The new kings of the ocean are the soft-bodied, the swift, and the intelligent. We are entering the age of the cephalopod. Squids, octopuses, and cuttlefish are exploding in numbers. Their high metabolic rates allow them to cope with the warmer, acidic water, and their lack of external shells means they aren't paying the same chemical tax as the clams. Imagine a world where packs of Humboldt squid hunt like underwater wolves, flashing colors in the gloom, the undisputed apex predators of a soft, squishy world. This future isn't empty of life. In fact, it might be teeming with it. But it is a specific alien kind of life. It is an ocean of survivors, creatures that live fast, die young, and leave beautiful corpses. The delicate balance of the old world, where 1,000 species lived in harmony on a single reef, is replaced by a boom and bust cycle. Massive swarms of jellyfish and squid rise and fall, boom and crash, in a chaotic rhythm driven by the chemistry of the water. It is a high-energy, unstable ecosystem, a world that is constantly teetering on the edge of collapse but never quite falling over. So, we return to the question that started this entire journey. Is it possible to survive in an acidic ocean? The scientific answer is a resounding yes. Life is tenacious. It has survived asteroids, volcanoes, and ice ages, and it will survive us. The bacteria will thrive, the jellyfish will bloom, and the squid will hunt in the silent green forests. The ocean will not become a sterile bathtub. It will simply change. It will shed the skin of the Holocene, the stable, friendly epoch we grew up in, and put on a new, tougher coat of armor for the Anthropocene. But scientific possibility is not the same thing as a happy ending. The tragedy of the acid ocean isn't that life dies. It's that the life we love dies. The tuna sandwich, the oyster dinner, the snorkeling trip to the Great Barrier Reef, those are the things that are on the extinction list. We are trading a world of diversity and abundance for a world of simplicity and slime. We are trading the cathedral for the concrete bunker. The ocean will survive, but it will be an ocean that doesn't care about us, doesn't feed us, and doesn't inspire us. This brings us to the true horror of the story. The monster in this movie isn't the acid, or the jellyfish, or even the volcanoes of the past. The monster is the choice we are making right now. We are currently deciding, day by day, to terraform our own planet into a place where only the monsters can live. We are the architects of the acid age, building a future where the only things that can swim in our seas are the things we are most afraid of. It's a legacy written in carbon, a signature we are carving into the geological record for the next 10 million years. So, when you look at the ocean next time, don't just see the blue surface. See the chemistry bubbling underneath. See the invisible war being fought for every carbonate ion. And ask yourself not if life can survive, but if we can live with what survives. The ocean is eating itself, dissolving its own history to make way for a strange new future. The question is, are we going to stop it, or are we just going to watch the world dissolve? The choice is yours, but the clock is ticking, and the water is getting sour.